"What have you fed Lucia these past few days?" Dalen asked. His face was expressionless. Edward and John were stunned by the question. They were thinking about what they had fed Lucia, but they couldn't recall as she was seldom home over the past few days. Did she eat something bad? John couldn't resist the pressure and honestly said, "We didn't give Lucia, madame, anything to eat." Dalen's black eyes suddenly turned stern. Edward saw and said, "After you left, Lucia, madame, never stayed in the mansion. She had been called away by your mother the same day and had been living at her house ever since. We were not allowed to visit her, so we've only seen her today." Dalen's expression did not improve in the slightest. "Why didn't you stop it? She lost so much weight in my absence. What use do I have of you all?" This time, Edward and John knew what the problem was, but they were helpless because they knew that they could not go against Linda's orders. So if they did make a mistake, they didn't feel that they should bear the responsibility. John hadn't worked in the mansion for as long as Edward. This was the first time he saw Dalen getting so angry. Dalen's aura was originally bad, but now it felt like the hostility in his body had exploded. "Spencer!" Dalen's voice turned cold. Spencer walked in. "Why didn't you tell me?" Dalen asked. "Mr. Patrick, I couldn't get in touch with you." Edward and John weren't the only ones that had trouble contacting Dalen. Dalen didn't know what to say, but his expression was getting more and more scary. He had not expected such a thing to happen in his absence. He originally wanted Spencer to stay by Lucia's side to prevent any danger, but he never expected his mother to act this way. Dalen suppressed his hostility and asked, "What did she do while at my mother's? Tell me everything without missing a single detail." After Lucia Madame was called over, she did housework from morning till night. Every morning she would get up at 5 in the morning to make breakfast. After that, she would wash Linda's clothes. After washing up, she began to prepare lunch. After lunch, she cleaned up the entire house and watered the plants outside. Before she finished, she was summoned to prepare dinner. All 3 meals a day were made with rice. The first day, the young lady had tried to get Cole to throw food at her from outside the wall. When they were found, the food was taken away. After that, she only ate a very small meal every day. Spencer said every single word slowly and carefully. John and Edward found it unbelievable. Dalen was furious. His expression was especially terrifying. "So, she snuck out this afternoon to eat?" Dalen asked. "No, she was driven out by Linda," Spencer answered. Dalen swept his sharp gaze over to him. Spencer continued. During the cleaning, Lucia had thrown various bowls and plates while doing the cleaning, but Linda didn't treat that like a big deal. The main thing was that Linda had gone to the temple to receive Lucia's fortune. The abbot said that Mrs. Patrick will never bear children. So Linda told Lucia to come back and ask for a divorce from you, sir. Spencer had impressive ways of procuring information. Dalen's face was stern, and his eyes were sharp. What nonsense is this? So much had happened to her during his absence. What made him even angrier was that Lucia didn't say anything to him whenever they spoke. Lucia felt that she slept very comfortably in the afternoon, but then she heard the door open. Lucia opened her eyes sleepily and saw Dalen's face. His face was sharp and hard. "You can sleep more after dinner," Dalen said. It's dinner time? I'll get up now." Lucia rubbed her eyes and sat up in bed. Lucia sat down at the dining table. Seeing the delicious food on the table made her drool. However, she couldn't let Dalen know how hungry she was. Otherwise, Dalen would know she hadn't been fed well at Linda's house. "Dalen, were you starving in the Middle East? Why did they make so much food? It's too wasteful." "You don't like it?" Dalen asked. "Who doesn't like delicious food? I like it best. Lucia said with a smile. Eat more. All right. Lucia began to eat. Lucia's face was filled with satisfaction as she took her first bite. John's heart was filled with bitterness. Why didn't Linda feed Lucia better? Only after seeing Lucia did he realize that she had lost a lot of weight. It was too pitiful. Lucia was completely unaware of the pity in John's heart. She lamented the fact that she was still so happy inside the mansion. There were all kinds of delicious foods. After Dalen gave her some food, Lucia said emotionally, I won't be able to eat for a week. Dalen looked at her seriously. You must stay by my side for the rest of your life, and you are not allowed to go anywhere without my permission. Lucia was powerless to refute Dalen's commands. From the time Lucia got up to the time before dinner, Dalen had never questioned her about anything that had happened while he was away. However, that did not mean that he would not ask a single question after the meal. After Dalen entered the room, he sat down on the sofa in an imposing manner. He ordered Lucia, Come here. Lucia, who was about to walk into the bedroom, was stunned. She walked over in confusion. She thought, This isn't right. Why does it feel like I did something wrong? Lucia stood in front of Dalen. She was still looking at Dalen nervously. You have nothing to say to me? Dalen asked. Eh? What do you want me to say? Lucia was at a loss. What did you do during my absence? Lucia was a little shy. She subconsciously twisted her hands in front of her. I didn't do anything. Didn't I tell you what I did while chatting? Lucia said innocently. I forgot. Lucia thought to herself, If you forgot, it's your problem. Why should I say it again? However, she didn't dare to speak her heart. She repeated, trying her best to sound convincing, I worked at the company during the day, but I came back at night and played games, and then after chatting with you, I'd go to sleep. Lucia didn't know that when she said those words, she didn't sound as confident as she did on her call with Dalen the other day. Did the servants in the mansion tell Dalen that she went to Linda's? Who said that? Edward? John? Or Spencer? Logically speaking, they shouldn't have said anything. It wasn't as though anything bad had happened, so why would they tell Dalen? As long as they didn't say anything, Dalen would definitely not know. You didn't lie to me? Dalen asked. Of course not. How could I possibly lie to you? Besides, I am bad at lying. Don't you know that already? I'm sure you would be able to see through it if I was. Lucia folded her arms and raised her voice. Indeed, as long as you lie, I will definitely be able to see through it, Dalen responded. Lucia's little mind was wandering about. Does he know I'm lying? Since Dalen didn't expose her, it didn't matter if Lucia said nothing. Lucia was still lost in her pride when she was caught off guard. Dalen reached forward and grabbed her waist, pulling her toward him. Lucia lost her balance and fell onto Dalen's well-built chest. It made her heart race. Her face flushed. Why are you being so rough? Lucia's delicate voice was shaking. You don't like it? Dalen's low and deep voice was a bit hoarse. Don't say stuff like that. Of course I like, As Lucia spoke shyly, Dalen directly grabbed her hands. Lucia's face immediately turned red. Dalen's body was extremely tempting. Do you like it? Dalen asked, as his hands explored her body. Be softer, Lucia said, and the pressure from Dalen's hands eased. Tell me what feels good, Dalen whispered in a hoarse voice. Lucia's face was red as she bit her lips, unable to control herself. She let out a soft gasp. Isn't it tempting? Just like you saw in that video. Dalen pressed the tip of his tongue against Lucia's neck. Her cheeks were burning. Yes, you're too cunning. That's why I did that on the chat. Lucia remembered how bold she had been that day and wished she could channel that again. Then do it again, Dalen said. No, I can't. Dalen wrapped a hand around the back of Lucia's waist and said hoarsely, Then let your husband help you bathe. Lucia's face and neck were almost melted by the scorching heat. She could not bear it and pressed a hand against Dalen's muscular body. However, the heat and tension of his body caused her entire body to tremble. What is it? Lucia, let's do it tonight. Dalen was practically begging. No, not yet, Lucia answered, although her body was arching toward him. Why not? Your hand has not fully recovered. Lucia tried to come up with all sorts of excuses. No problem. One hand is fine, Dalen said. But I have one more question. Lucia knew she couldn't avoid this any longer. Dalen's nose was filled with Lucia's perfume, and his mind was getting fuzzy. What would you do if I couldn't have children? Dalen paused for a moment and pulled back. His black eyes stared at Lucia's nervous expression in a deep, understanding manner. Why do you think you can't have children? Dalen asked. Well, what if we don't have any problems with intimacy, but I still just can't have children? Lucia looked at the sky and looked at the ground, but didn't look at Dalen. If there really is no child, then it is because my efforts are not enough. If you want a baby right now, we can start trying. Dalen enticed Lucia. I'm a bit nervous. Lucia sat on Dalen's leg, her slender legs tightly squeezed together. Dalen picked her up and carried Lucia in his arms. Where are we going? Lucia asked, giggling. We're taking a bath, Dalen said simply. And after washing up, we're just going to sleep? Lucia was still timid. I don't know. Maybe we'll stay up all night, Dalen teased. Lucia's body trembled. She wouldn't be able to control herself. Lucia opened her mouth and bit Dalen's shoulder. Dalen took a deep breath and said harshly, Just bite me like that later. Lucia didn't understand what Dalen meant and didn't understand why he liked it when she bit him. Dalen whispered into her ear with his thin lips. Lucia's face immediately turned red. While the two of them were bathing, Lucia was entranced by Dalen and his body. There was no time to dry off. Dalen wrapped a towel around Lucia's body and threw her onto the bed. Lucia's breathing quickened. When Dalen pressed down on her, her breathing almost stopped. Are you still nervous? Dalen's voice sounded hoarse and excited. Lucia whimpered. I'm ready. Don't worry. Dalen pressed his lips against Lucia's mouth. However, just at that moment, someone knocked on the door. Dalen paused, and his eyes were furious at being interrupted. He roared, There better be an emergency! Edward, who was outside, tensed up. He felt that he had come at the wrong time. Mr. Patrick, your mother has come. Edward braced himself and said, She said she wants to see you and the young madam. Dalen's expression was cold and hard. Why did she come at this time? This was the worst possible timing. It was finally going to happen with Lucia. Dalen had to use an extraordinary amount of control to suppress his aroused emotions. Lucia was also stunned. She crawled out from under Dalen with a nervous expression. She felt a pang in her heart when she heard Linda's name. Well, what should we do? What's she doing here? Lucia asked, trembling in fear. It couldn't be that she wanted to tell Dalen that the abbot had predicted that she'd have no children. right? If Dalen had to know, Lucia wanted to tell him herself. Why did Linda come? Why is she in such a hurry? You stay here, Dalen said as he put on a shirt. Lucia argued back. But Edward said she wants to see the two of us. Did you hear what Edward said? I'll go too. Otherwise, she'll get angry. No need. Dalen turned around and went to the closet to put on the rest of his clothes. He waited until the heat in his body had dissipated before he walked out of the room expressionlessly. Edward, who was standing outside the room, looked down. As Dalen passed, he felt cold all over. After calming himself down, Edward followed Dalen. As soon as Dalen went downstairs, Lucia put on her pajamas and ran after him. She did not go downstairs, but hid behind the railing overlooking the hall. Then she saw Linda, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room. From the expression on her face, it was obvious that she did not come with good intentions. Why did you come over at this time? Dalen sat down on the sofa. Linda looked toward the stairs and asked, Where's Lucia? She fell asleep, Dalen lied. So early? Linda's expression turned even more unsightly. I said I wanted to see both of you, so you should wake her up. Lucia could only hear some of the words if she really strained her ears. The house was too big, so it was not easy for her to eavesdrop. Hiding behind the railing, Lucia thought to herself, should I go out? It's not too good to push the blame on Dalen, right? Just as she was thinking, she heard Dalen's low and hoarse voice. She looked very tired, so I didn't have the heart to wake her. Linda's expression changed, looking a little unnatural. She has been with me in the past few days you were gone, she said. What did you do to her? Dalen was expressionless, as if he didn't already know everything. Is being your wife so easy? She had to learn to do something, Linda argued. When you first entered this family, you were like her. From morning to evening, you asked her to do those menial tasks, Dalen asked. Do you think I'm wrong? Linda asked with a challenge. You did the right thing. Lucia, who was listening in the dark, nearly bit her tongue in surprise. Dalen is a heartless man. Dalen continued. You can teach her, but not in this way. Her status in the family is not to do menial work. Mom, you should be more tolerant, Dalen said without any emotion. Linda didn't pursue the matter. Lucia would not have been so patient with anyone else ordering her around. She had chosen to follow Linda's orders because she wanted Dalen's mother's approval. Linda was upset. Tolerant? Do you think I don't want to be tolerant? Linda got angry just by Dalen mentioning it. I didn't say anything about the statue being crushed, but do you know that she will never have children in her life? Do you wish you had no children in the future? When Linda thought of this, she couldn't sleep at night. If Lucia and Dalen didn't get a divorce, she would always feel upset. Lucia's fingers tightened around the railing so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Dalen finally knew the truth. What would he think? What would he say? How would he respond? She was nervous. However, Dalen didn't answer Linda's question. Instead, he asked, Who said that? It was said by the abbot of the Buddhist temple, Linda said. You can't help but believe in his words. Your marriage is already a sham. Do you still want to bet on a woman that can have no children? What's the use of a woman who can't have children? That's too harsh, Dalen said, defending Lucia. You think this is too harsh? Linda couldn't believe Dalen's calm reaction. Dalen didn't speak for a while and then said, Well, you can stay here tonight. Linda was stunned. There's no need for that, I'm here to settle this matter. I'll leave after I'm done." "Haven't you settled it yet?" Dalen asked. Linda did not understand what Dalen meant. Dalen instructed John, "Take my mother home." With that, he stood up and left. Seeing Dalen leave the hall, Lucia quickly ran towards the room. In a moment, she was in the room. When Dalen went upstairs, he instructed Spencer with a cold expression. "Tomorrow morning, I want to see that Abbott." "Yes, sir." Lucia looked at Dalen walking into the room with a calm expression. She wanted to see something that gave away his reaction to his mother's visit, but nothing could be seen. Lucia deliberately asked, "What did your mother say? Are you angry? I should have gone with you to see her." "Go to sleep," Dalen said. "What did your mom say? You still haven't told me," Lucia persisted. Dalen's dark eyes stared at her. Nothing. Lucia pouted. She silently cursed. How was he going to deal with her not being able to have children? How would it be resolved? Lucia was slightly anxious. "Lucia?" Lucia was stunned. Dalen had appeared in front of her, a deep shadow looming over her slender figure. "It's time to sleep." Lucia turned around and lay down on the bed, covering herself with a blanket and lying on her side. The bed behind her sank down as Dalen entered the bed. He scooted close and held her from behind. "Are you angry?" As he spoke, Lucia felt his chest rise and fall against her back. Lucia couldn't help but let out a sensitive sigh. You can't touch me. I'm not in the mood." "Even if you're in the mood, I wouldn't do it tonight," Dalen said. "Why?" Lucia was stunned. "Are you disappointed it's not happening tonight?" Dalen's hot breath gushed onto Lucia's delicate neck. Lucia felt her body go numb. "I'm just asking a simple question. I'm not disappointed." Dalen smiled and said in a low voice, "If it was up to me, you wouldn't be able to get off this bed for a week." Lucia was scared stiff by Dalen's words. Not getting out of bed for a week? Wasn't this too terrifying? Lucia heard Dalen's voice turn hoarse. "So tonight, I need you to cooperate with me as much as you can." What do you mean? When she didn't understand what that meant, Dalen didn't answer her. Instead, he turned Lucia over and laid her on her back. In the morning, when Dalen opened his eyes, he saw Lucia standing by the bed, dressing and staring at him. Lucia was shocked. What are you doing watching me dress?" "I like seeing you without your clothes," Dalen said shamelessly. Lucia's face turned hot, and she stopped talking. She felt that she would never be able to win against Dalen. After all, she had no experience. Unlike Dalen, how else could he know so much? This caused Lucia, who lacked experience, to be dumbstruck and frightened silly. Lucia's face turned red when she recalled the scene from last night. "Why are you blushing? Are you being naughty in your head right now?" Dalen asked. "No." Lucia got up and shoved back the blanket. Immediately, she felt pain. So painful. Lucia could not ignore the pain, but she could not suppress her embarrassment. "Let me see." Dalen reached for the collar of her pajamas. "Don't," Lucia argued. "Don't move." Dalen's voice sank. The collar was easily ripped open under his strong hands. Lucia's face was so red. Dalen used his rough hand to inspect her body. Lucia trembled. Why did it take him so long? She suspected that Dalen was doing it on purpose. Didn't he have enough last night? You didn't even open your eyes last night, and you're still shy? Dalen asked evilly. Have you finished checking? Lucia asked. I applied the medicine yesterday, but the skin didn't break. It's a little red. You still have the nerve to say that? It's all because of you. Lucia slapped Dalen's hand away angrily. Annoyed, she jumped off the bed. Dalen stretched out his long arm to block her. Fortunately, Lucia landed steadily on the floor and ran into the bathroom. Safe in the bathroom, Lucia pulled open the collar of her pajamas after she was sure that Dalen wasn't going to come in. There were traces of last night's activities on her skin, all caused by friction. Lucia's face turned red at the thought of the heat and hardness. Even now, she could still clearly remember that burning sensation. She felt confused about these feelings she was having lately, especially this deep-seated feeling of desire that was finally unleashed last night. She couldn't stop smiling about it, but as soon as those thoughts made her heart flutter, her mind shoved her back to reality. She couldn't let Dalen do it the next time. Lucia followed Dalen out of their bedroom. When they entered the hall, they saw Linda sitting on the sofa. Having stayed in Linda's house for so long, Lucia naturally knew that Linda had the habit of waking up early. When she saw Lucia, she immediately lost all color. Why did you wake up so late? Mom. Linda didn't like her, but Lucia couldn't be bothered about it. She already had enough mistakes on her body. Linda didn't react when Lucia called out Mom. To be honest, her reaction was an expression of complete disregard. Dalen's black eyes slightly narrowed as he asked Linda, Have you eaten? No, I was waiting for you so we could eat together, Linda said. Then the three of them went to eat. Needless to say, the atmosphere was tense and awkward. There was only the faint sound of chewing and the clink of cutlery. After eating, Dalen instructed Spencer, Bring him in. Linda was stunned. Who? You'll know when he gets here. Dalen stood up and walked out of the dining room. Lucia was stunned. What was going on? Who was Dalen bringing in? Lucia was stupefied when she walked into the hall. The abbot? What was going on? Why was the abbot there? He was still wearing the same monastic robe he had worn the first time Lucia saw him. However, right now he was kneeling on the ground with a terrified expression. Spencer stood straight and cold by the abbot's side. Seeing the abbot, Linda was shocked. She immediately asked, Why are you here? Dalen, what did you bring him here for? I want him to help me predict what my life will be like. Dalen sat down on the sofa and crossed his long legs. He was really prepared to listen to the abbot's story with a serious face. Lucia secretly glanced at Dalen and thought, What kind of fate is this? Dalen, why are you making him kneel on the ground? Let him get up, Linda said. No need to get up. Just kneel and think clearly. Dalen was expressionless. Without Dalen's permission, the abbot would not dare to get up. The abbot had never seen such an imposing person before. He did not even dare to meet his gaze. It made him shiver all over. You can begin. Dalen's voice was cold. If you can't explain, I'll cut off your hand. A sharp knife immediately appeared in Spencer's hand. The blade emitted a cold light, which was especially terrifying. The abbot's body began to tremble even more violently. I'll tell you. Yes. The abbot nodded. You were born with a golden spoon in your mouth. Your life is one of wealth and power. With power in your hands, you will stand at the top of the world for your entire life. No one dares to surpass you. No more? Will I have children in my life, for example? Dalen asked him. The abbot looked in Lucia's direction and stammered. Hearing Dalen's question, Lucia finally understood why Dalen called the abbot over. This is why he didn't ask her last night. He was waiting until today to personally question the abbot. She had thought that Dalen was unwilling to accept such a question, so he didn't say a word. Lucia's heart throbbed slightly. "Speak." Dalen's voice turned stern as he commanded the abbot. The abbot's face paled as he immediately said, "In your life you will have many children. All of them will become dragons and phoenixes." "Then how many wives do you think I would have? How many times will I marry?" Dalen asked. "You will only marry once, one marriage," said the abbot, under great pressure. "So my child will be born to a woman other than my wife?" Dalen pressured. "No, no." The abbot looked as if he was about to be sick. Linda frowned when she heard this. She clearly remembered the abbot telling her she would always be barren. "Then explain to me why my wife is childless," Dalen asked lazily. "Since you know so much, you should know who my wife is even without me telling you." The abbot glanced at Lucia and said while trembling, I know. "Answer the question," Dalen commanded. The abbot looked at Lucia's face. Lucia was also waiting for his response. It was contradictory for the abbot to say that she was childless, that Dalen will have a bunch of children, that he would have no children with a woman other than his wife, and that he will only be married once. "Yes, I was wrong at first. Your wife here has a good life and is not worried about food or clothes. She is also carefree. Naturally, she will have children," said the abbot. Linda was distraught. "That was not what you told me in the beginning. I gave you Lucia's birth date. You said that she would have no son. Why did your face change the moment you turned around? Who are you lying to?" I may have been wrong at first," the abbot said in horror. "How could you be wrong?" Linda was no longer calm. "I should have taken more time when I made my first prediction," the priest said noncommittally. Linda was so angry that her face turned red, but she wouldn't let go of this hope that they would get divorced so easily. If Dalen was just asking him these questions, why would he bring the abbot to the mansion? "Did you really just make a mistake?" Dalen asked in a seemingly indifferent manner, but others could hear the different meaning behind his question. "I think I just misread the word birthday. It was my mistake, my first ever. Please forgive me. It's my fault." The abbot bowed to Dalen. However, this humble attitude was disdainful. The abbot was mostly afraid of Dalen's unshakable social status. Dalen didn't say anything harsh about the abbot's words. Instead, he calmly said, "You're married, right? Are your wife and children in the countryside?" The abbot immediately became nervous and said, "Our Buddhist temple does not have a rule that no one can marry." "Of course you can get married. I just don't know if your son will live to see you die," Dalen said lightly. However, the light in his eyes was extremely sharp and cruel. What do you want?" The abbot was so frightened that his face morphed into something ugly. With a pleading expression, he looked at Linda and Lucia, who were beside him. He hoped they would say good things on his behalf, and that Dalen would let him go this time. But how could Linda speak up for the abbot? She also wanted to know why the abbot had made a mistake. It sounded like Dalen was hiding something. Moreover, she did not believe that her son was merciful. From the very first day that she entered the Patrick family, she knew that everyone was selfish. They all lived for themselves, regardless of the means they used. "Do I have to ask again?" Dalen asked. What I said was the truth. What I said was the truth," I accidentally predicted something wrong. Please, spare me. Do what you want with me, but don't hurt my son." Here, the abbot made a crucial mistake. Once a person's weakness was exposed, it was much easier for them to be controlled. It was clear that the abbot was extremely afraid of others harming his family members. Monks were also people, and they could also have emotions and desires. Otherwise, how could they marry and have children? "It seems like you won't talk until we persuade you a bit more. Bring them in." Dalen's expression was cruel. Spencer immediately walked out. The abbot was terrified. He didn't dare to think about who Spencer would bring in. However, when he saw that the person being brought in was his own son, the abbot's entire body crumbled. "Father!" With this shout, the abbot immediately surrendered. I'll tell you everything." Spencer took the 7 or 8-year-old child out again. The abbot said, "Yes, fine. Someone told me to lie about my prediction. She said that as long as I follow what she said and tell Miss Patrick that this girl is barren, I would be paid handsomely." Lucia was surprised. There was really someone behind this. "Who was it?" Dalen asked. "It was a woman, but I don't know her. I just did what she said," the abbot confessed. Dalen said coldly, "Take him out." After Spencer led the abbot out, Dalen said to Lucia, "Go back to your room." Lucia glanced at Linda, then stood up to leave. "No eavesdropping," Dalen warned. Lucia, who was about to climb the stairs, staggered and steadied herself. She then blushed and retorted, "I won't eavesdrop." Then she turned and went upstairs. How did Dalen know that she had the intention to eavesdrop? After returning to her room, Lucia lay on her bed and heaved a huge sigh of relief. She would never be childless in her life. Dalen's actions really warmed her heart. I just don't know what's going to happen. What was his goal? What benefits did he want? Linda knew that Dalen had something to say. "If you have something to say, then say it. I was wrong about her," Linda said to Dalen as they sat downstairs in the living room. "You are wrong about her," Dalen said. "You are not teaching her, you are torturing her, and torturing her is the same as torturing me." Linda's expression dropped. She didn't think that Dalen would make this matter sound so serious. Dalen continued, "I won't say anything else. As you can see now, someone used your faith in the Buddha to set up a trap for you to force Lucia and me to divorce. I can tell you now that I will never get a divorce. As for children, Lucia is still young, so I'm not worried about starting our family so soon. At least not now." "How can a man not have children when he's married?" Linda disagreed. "That's what I mean. This is a choice I'm making with Lucia," Dalen said. "Are you really going to sacrifice yourself like this? Give up the happiness of your life? Was it my fault for letting you repay my gratitude in such a way?" Linda mourned. "No one can force me to do what I don't want to do. Not even you," Dalen said. "Do you care so much about her? What can she give you?" Linda grabbed the sleeve of Dalen's shirt, holding on desperately. "No one else can give me what she can," Dalen answered. Lucia tossed and turned in her bed. What did Dalen want to tell Linda that he didn't want her to hear? Not letting her eavesdrop? That's not right. What right did Dalen have to say that she was eavesdropping? Had she been caught eavesdropping before? She had just eavesdropped a few times. Suddenly, the door opened. Lucia shuddered and sat up. Dalen had already entered the bedroom. His tall figure had an extremely strong presence. "Dalen, what did you say to Linda?" "Why did you ask me to leave?" Lucia pouted. He jumped playfully on the bed. Dalen looked at Lucia's youthful and energetic appearance. He thought, if she really gives birth to a child, others would think that she is an older sister when they see Lucia and the child side by side. However, Dalen really didn't want Lucia's child to be born that early. In his heart, Lucia was the most important treasure. Seeing Dalen staring at her in a daze, Lucia couldn't help but ask him, Dalen, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about whether we should continue what we started last night, Dalen said. Lucia's heart skipped a beat. She took a few steps back from him. Dalen, it's broad daylight. Can you for once think about something else? Lucia could not believe how shameless Dalen was being. Well, it's not like I can control it. Dalen's mouth twitched. Aren't you satisfied with what we did last night? Lucia asked. It doesn't seem to be enough. Lucia's mind was racing. Why was Dalen demanding so much? How would she live in the future? Dalen smiled lovingly at her, and Lucia's mind eased. I'll let you off today, Dalen teased. I'm going to the company, Lucia stammered. Dalen then said, I'll take you there. Are you going too? Lucia asked. I need to do some family business. After dropping Lucia off, Spencer asked, Mr. Patrick, do we need to investigate more about the Buddha temple? No need, Dalen replied. So you know who's behind this? Other than Catherine, there's no one else who has done this before. Dalen didn't even need to check to know. Spencer sighed. As expected of a family, all of them are the same type of ruthless people. Ruthlessness flashed across Dalen's eyes as he said, How else are we going to kill the whole family? At the company, Cole was surprised to see Lucia walking in. Lucia, why did you come to the company? Cole, who was working, stood up out of curiosity and walked up to her. How could someone as diligent as me not come to work? Lucia asked calmly. Cole really wanted to tell Lucia that she wasn't nearly as diligent as she pretended. In the end, though, he didn't because he was afraid Lucia would make him work harder again. After Dalen returned, things had been awkward between them. But from the looks of it, you and Dalen still haven't... How do you know? Lucia was more curious how Cole could tell. Your gait is light and your posture is similar, Cole answered. Is it always like that after the first time? Lucia asked. Yes, that's what I've heard, Cole said sympathetically. Seeing how distraught Lucia looked, he added, It's not like always. After recovering, you'll be able to walk normally, Cole said. Lucia thought, if what Dalen said was true, would she be able to recover? He even said that she wouldn't be able to get out of her bed for a week. She didn't want to talk to Cole about this, so she changed the subject. Let me tell you something. Good or bad? About me? Cole asked nervously. Your news is bad. Lucia looked at him with a dark expression. Why do I have such a hard time? Cole wailed. Don't be a baby. This isn't about you. Do you still remember that Abbott saying that I can't have children? Lucia didn't want to tease him anymore. It's only been a few days. Of course I remember. What's the matter? Cole asked. Dalen went to investigate the matter after he found out about it. And then they found out that someone was behind it, Lucia said. Dang, that is too wicked. Who is it? Cole was desperately curious. I don't know. Dalen didn't say anything, and I don't know if he knows or not. On the surface, it seems like he doesn't know either. If we find out, we should confront that person, Cole said angrily. I think I might know who it is. Lucia stroked her lower jaw with a thoughtful expression. It can't be. If Dalen doesn't know, how could you know? Cole didn't quite believe her. It's normal that he doesn't know about it. Also, don't look down on my intelligence. You're making life difficult for yourself, Lucia boomed. All right. I won't underestimate you. Tell me about it, Cole said, raising his hands defensively. There are a few suspects. First, Bianca. She's always disliked me and wants me to divorce Dalen. Secondly, Victoria. She likes Dalen. Seems like everyone in the Patrick family knows that she is better at scheming than Bianca. She's more likely than any other woman to take my place. Thirdly, you. What the heck? Why do you suspect me? Cole was quite shocked. He looked at Lucia, flabbergasted. Don't be so nervous. I'm giving everyone equal consideration and the benefit of the doubt. Cole was furious. You should not count me as a suspect. You should only count all the women who like Dalen in your life. That'd be too many. How many women like Dalen? That would require me to do some serious investigative work, Lucia complained. Fine, just tell me who is the most suspicious, Cole said, growing impatient. Victoria, Lucia answered resolutely. Why? Think about it. Catherine and Victoria were the only ones going to the house while I was there with Linda. Moreover, the two of them took the initiative to talk about the matter of having children, and even led Dalen's mother to believe it'd be best to consult the abbot. Thus, she made the preparations to bribe the abbot and waited for Dalen's mother to come knocking, Lucia said. Cole thought about it for a while. That seems to make a lot of sense. If they hadn't brought up me having children, Dalen's mom would never have thought of such a thing. All she wanted was for me to do the housework wholeheartedly. Lucia shook her head sadly. Then you have to guard against them in the future, Cole said. I've been on guard this whole time, so it's still only a matter of time. Lucia curled her lips. But you don't have to worry. With Dalen beside you, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Lucia listened to Cole's words, but she had some doubts. Was that so? It seems to be true. Lucia lay down on her desk with a sweet smile in her eyes. Her chest brushed against the edge of the desk. Ah! Lucia gasped in pain. She quickly covered her chest with her hands. What, you have chest pain again? Cole asked. How do you know? Is this a disease? Do you need to go to the hospital to have them take a look? Cole, who didn't know anything about the situation, asked out of concern. Lucia's face turned red as she said, No need. I just bumped into something accidentally. Oh, that makes sense. But still, I think you'd better check it out. It's always like this, Cole said. Lucia was perturbed in her heart. She felt so naive that she blamed every ache in her body on what transpired between Dalen and herself last night. She couldn't stop thinking about Dalen swaying effortlessly on top of her. Lucia had to bring her head back to the present. As the two of them were conversing, someone knocked on the door to the office, and her assistant walked in. Mrs. Patrick, someone wishes to see you. Who is it? It's the superstar, the Vice Director Leland's ex-wife, Tracy Parker, the assistant said. Before Lucia could say anything, Cole shouted, Ah! My idol is here! Let her in! Lucia pouted and said to the assistant, Let her in. She didn't look at Cole's grateful smile. She just didn't know why Tracy Parker was looking for her. They weren't good friends. When Tracy came in, she was practically covered in jewels and gems. Cole had prepared tea even ahead of Lucia's approval. He gently placed it in front of Tracy. Tracy smiled at him. Thank you. You're welcome. Cole blushed, then walked out of the office. Lucia sat down on the sofa and asked, Did you come looking for me specifically? Yes. You're Mark's boss, so I wanted your advice and possibly your help. Lucia was intrigued. Tracy continued. Mark and I have been divorced for 3 years, and I have always regretted it. Lucia thought, then why did you ask for a divorce in the first place? Why would Tracy come here to talk to her about this? Lucia went straight to the point. I want to remarry. I want you to help me. Lucia was stunned. Ask me for help? How? This is a private matter between you two. Even if I'm his boss, I can't get involved in his personal life. I'm not asking you to say anything to him. As long as you give us opportunities to meet with each other from time to time, perhaps, said Tracy. If you really want to remarry so badly, it might be better to just have an honest conversation with him, Lucia said. I've tried everything, and he's indifferent. I can't think of any other way. That's why I came to find you, Tracy begged. I'm sorry, this is your private matter. I'm really powerless. How could Lucia agree to such a thing? It was too inappropriate of her to get involved. If I show you something, how about we make a deal? If you promise to help me, I'll show you my good stuff, Tracy said. Lucia was intrigued. What is it? It's something you're interested in. What if you're lying to me and I agree? Tracy didn't reveal anything. She simply took out her phone, flipped through it a few times, and handed it over to Lucia. Here, look at this, Tracy said. When Lucia saw the photos on Tracy's phone, she was stunned. It was a video of Bianca, who had just walked out of the neighborhood, getting into a car that Lucia was all too familiar with. Once she was inside, the car drove off. That day, I was filming in that district and saw this scene. I wonder, are all rich men like this, always needing more on the side? I didn't want Mark to be that kind of person. I wanted to go back to Mark because I didn't want other women to have him. But you are different. What you want is to consolidate your position. In the end, we're both the same, Tracy said. When was this taken? Lucia asked. I remember very clearly. It was last week at about 4 or 5 o'clock. I was just finishing my work and getting ready for dinner, Tracy answered. Lucia reckoned that was why Dalen never went back to the mansion to eat. This must have been the day she and Cole went to the Gucci store and met Victoria. She thought Dalen was busy with some important matters, but he just went to see Bianca. Why was Bianca even there? Was it because Dalen was looking for her? So it didn't matter if she and Dalen were divorced? He was still looking for other women anyways. Is this important to you? Do we have a deal? Tracy asked. Lucia didn't say anything and deleted the video on Tracy's phone. Only then did she hand the phone over to Tracy. Tracy smiled when she saw this. Even if you didn't delete it, I would still have deleted it after I showed it to you. Aren't you afraid that Dalen will find out? Lucia asked. Tracy maintained the smile on her face and said confidently, You're not that kind of person. I'm telling you in good faith so that you won't be kept in the dark. You know what Dalen did, so there's no need to make a fuss. That's not necessarily true, Lucia thought. Tracy continued, So, did you just agree to help me? I'll think about it, Lucia said. Cole, who had just walked in, asked, What was that about? That woman is cruel. After Lucia finished her sentence, she noticed that Cole did not explode, so she asked, Do you have anything to say? You seem to be in a bad mood. What's wrong? She's so annoying. Lucia was so angry that she leaned on her desk. What did Tracy say to you? Cole asked. Should I believe Dalen? Lucia raised her head again. Oh, what happened to Dalen? Tracy took a video of Bianca getting into Dalen's car and showed it to me. That was the day I dragged you out to eat and shop. Then we met Victoria and she was so angry that she fainted. Remember? Yes, Dalen even called you back. What's the problem? Cole was surprised. Could it be that Dalen and Bianca went on a date? You think so too. So I'm not being unreasonable thinking that? Lucia stood up with a clap of her hands. But why would Dalen look for Bianca? Cole wondered. He must have thought that Bianca was better than me. I wonder what they do together. Cole comforted Lucia. They might have just been having a meal. It could be nothing. But why would they be having dinner together? Lucia asked desperately. Cole was speechless. He racked his brains to think of a reason, but he couldn't think of one. The thing was, Bianca was not Dalen's lover now. So why did he have to eat with Bianca? Cole could not say anything. Lucia was lying on her desk in a depressed mood. I know why Dalen went to find Bianca, she said sullenly. Why? Because I don't do that kind of thing with him. So he went to find Bianca, Lucia moaned. I don't think so, said Cole. Why not? Lucia asked. Dalen looks down on people like Bianca. Cole didn't know what to say. Lucia didn't understand either. Bianca was such a sensitive topic between them. Why would Dalen look for her? Lucia could not be blamed for overthinking. Even Cole was overthinking too much. Well, if he can have women on the side, I can look for a man too, Lucia roared. You better not be impulsive. Cole shook his hands until they became blurry and hurriedly stopped Lucia. Come to the bar with me tonight, Lucia said impulsively. You think Dalen will have no objections? Cole asked. He doesn't care. I want to find a male model 1,000 times more handsome than him. Lucia's expression was especially ferocious. She was wreathing with revenge. Lucia was unable to think straight at the moment. She just wanted to hurt Dalen the way she was hurting, but didn't want to accept. In the afternoon, Lucia wanted to tell Dalen that she was going to have a meeting in the evening. She chose not to call and instead sent a message. Lucia, I'm going to a party tonight, so there's no need to wait for me. I'll get back by myself after it's over. After sending the message, her cell phone rang. It was Dalen. Lucia cursed silently. Why did he call? Why didn't he just text? She answered, What, Dalen? What do you mean? Dalen's voice came over the phone, cold. I didn't do anything. I'm just going out for the evening, Lucia argued. You're not allowed to go, Dalen demanded. I hardly ever get to go out. Why can't I? Why are you being so controlling? The more you don't want me to go, the more I want to go. Lucia yelled and then hung up the phone angrily. Not long after she hung up the phone, she got a text. She opened it. Master, no drinking. Lucia bit her lips and glared at the screen. You're allowed to meet up with other women and I can't even drink? But she wasn't going to the bar to drink. Lucia went to the bar with Cole at night and found a booth. She said to the waiter, Bring the best male model to our booth. How many do you need to choose from? The waiter asked. As many as you have. Okay, please wait a moment, the waiter said and left. Cole was nervous and a little excited. Are you serious? Of course, Lucia said to Cole. There's no need to be polite. If you like the look of someone, go ahead and pick whoever you want. I better not, Cole thought. When Dalen finds out about this, at least he could claim innocence. Not long after, male models came in one by one. They stood in a row in front of them. The clothes they were wearing were all tight-fitting clothes, and Lucia could see the outline of each of them. Tall and lined, yes, but too thin. And that face, it was very ordinary. Lucia shook her head in disappointment and asked the supervisor, Is that all? The male supervisor understood. Then let's switch to another batch? Yes. Then the male models filed out as they had come in. Cole said, "It's really not a big deal, but the clothes they were wearing were really bad." You don't just look at the clothes. You have to look at the shape of the body under them. They have to be good to look at, Lucia said. Cole was curious. Were any of them better than Dalen? Nope. Lucia raised her head and said indifferently, "He's better looking than all of these guys?" Cole asked. Dalen's body definitely had sexy muscles. Even wearing clothes, he makes women scream when they see him. Lucia's expression changed as she stopped Cole. You're not allowed to say anything about him. Fine. Let's not talk about him. Here's your male models. Lucia looked at the new male models. They were indeed better looking than the first batch. However, if she was comparing them all with Dalen, none of them stood a chance. Dalen's figure was good looking. It was well built and tough. Every part of him was sexy and full of wild energy. No way. I want another batch. Lucia was still dissatisfied. Then the male models went out again. At this moment, Dalen was alone in the mansion smoking a cigarette. His black eyes slightly squinted at the night outside the window. The outline of his face grew colder and harder in the reflected darkness. One could see that he was in a bad mood. He was playing with the lighter in his hand, making a clicking sound. A rhythmic beat, as of a heart. It made people panic. Mr. Patrick, Spencer said as he walked in. Did she drink? Dalen asked calmly. Nope. Good. But although the young lady did not drink alcohol, she is trying to hire a stripper, Spencer finished. Dalen was stunned. The cigarette almost burned his fingers. His face turned gloomy and his voice became cold. What did you say she was doing? Young madam, she's trying to hire a stripper, Spencer said reluctantly. He wasn't pleased to have to report this news to Dalen. Dalen's expression was dark. At the bar, Lucia examined the male model performing a pole dance on the stage. It had taken her a long time to find a model that she was slightly attracted to. I think his ass is pretty perky, Lucia said to Cole. Cole laughed. That's for sure. For a dancer, his physique is definitely not bad. Lucia thought to herself that he was still no match to Dalen. But the dance was good. When the male model jumped off the pole, he directly took off his shirt. His upper body was exposed. It looked even more alluring and exciting. Wow! Cole clapped excitedly. Lucia burst into laughter as she stood up in a frenzy. Take off your pants! Cole almost fell off the sofa. Just then, the private room's door was roughly kicked open by someone. Seeing the menacing figure and that gloomy face, Lucia fell off the sofa. The male model stopped dancing as well. Get out! Dalen's voice turned stern. His aura was powerful and terrifying. The male model felt that something was wrong. He trembled in fear due to Dalen's unkind attitude and quickly ran away. Cole also ran away when Dalen shot a stern look at him. Lucia and Dalen were the only ones left in the room. Lucia was intimidated by Dalen's aura from head to toe. Trembling, she said, what are you doing here? I didn't drink. You are indeed obedient. I asked you not to drink alcohol, so you hired a stripper instead? Dalen's black eyes were practically on fire. Who said anything about hiring a stripper? You speak too harshly. Lucia refused to admit it. Then what were you doing just now? Dalen asked. But it was just that they were performing. What else could I do? It's not like you've never seen a pole dance before. Lucia stood up while guarding herself against Dalen, who was leaning towards the door. Everything lay ahead. Lucia would have to be careful. Lucia tried to escape the private booth she was being held captive at the moment by Dalen. However, Dalen was quicker on his toes as he caught hold of Lucia before she could sneak her way out. Lucia felt dizzy as Dalen carried her to the sofa. Dalen's figure pressed down on her. Lucia opened her eyes wide. A stripper? Are you unsatisfied with me? Dalen tugged on Lucia's clothes. Dalen, you're crazy! Lucia used her hand to push Dalen. However, Dalen's strength was too great. What are you doing? Lucia struggled even though she knew it was no use. What do you think I'm doing? Dalen cursed. He tore off Lucia's clothes. Lucia felt a chill in the air, causing her entire body to tense up. Dalen suddenly stopped what he was doing and just looked into Lucia's eyes. Lucia's entire body shuddered. It felt as though electricity were flowing through her entire body. Her face immediately flushed red. Dalen's voice was soft, and there was a bit of disappointment. So other people's bodies are nicer to look at than mine? You like those guys better? Lucia's body stiffened. I didn't mean that. Lucia never expected Dalen to guess so much. Was he outside the door? How could his ears be so sharp? What else happened? Tell me about it, Dalen asked. Nothing. No more. Dalen, it hurts. Lucia groaned, unable to hold it in. The anger on Dalen's face began to deteriorate. He eased up to avoid hurting her. He felt his emotions surge. Lucia let out a breath. If she knew it would work, she would have said that earlier. However, she didn't see the smile on Dalen's lips. Then she picked up the cup on the table and smashed it towards Dalen's head. However, Dalen grabbed her wrist. He easily held her arms away from his head. Dalen's black eyes flashed. Lucia, this would be the 4th time. You still want to knock me out? Lucia's eyes bloomed with a murderous light. She revealed her sharp teeth and bit down towards Dalen's finger. Ugh! Dalen grunted. Wolfhound. Lucia thought angrily, if I really am a wolfhound, then I will bite off your finger. Dalen held his finger in his other hand. Why are you so nervous? He asked softly. For Lucia, it was enough to shock her to the point that her soul almost left her body. Dalen still wanted to have her? There was something wrong with this person. Do you want to rest here before we start? Dalen continued. Lucia's eyes reddened, because she thought of Dalen telling Bianca the same thing. Would he go back to find Bianca after dealing with her? The more she thought about it, the more likely it seemed. The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. Dalen was shocked by the tears in Lucia's eyes. He immediately let go of her and hugged her to comfort her. I'm here. You're tired and need to rest on the bed. Be good and stop crying. Dalen thought that Lucia was crying because she was still nervous. I don't want to do that sort of thing with you. Go find someone else. Lucia pushed Dalen away. Lucia struggled to get off the sofa, stood up, and was about to leave the room. Lucia? Dalen frowned slightly. Did he really make her angry? Shouldn't he be the one that should be angry? She even had the guts to come here and look for a stripper. Lucia ignored Dalen. Pretending that she did not hear him call her, she walked straight outside. Lucia saw Dalen's black luxury car, but she turned around and walked the other way. However, before she could take 2 steps, Dalen wrapped his arms around her. Let me go! I don't want to ride in your car. Lucia struggled. Dalen ignored her struggle and carried her into the car. Lucia bit her lip, turned her angry face to the window and looked out into the night. She didn't look at Dalen. Dalen directly pulled her over to sit on his thigh. "What are you doing? Can't I just sit there?" Lucia said angrily. "No," Dalen answered. "What's there to be angry about?" Lucia was shocked as she turned her head to look at Dalen, who had a calm expression. She could not recover from the shock. "Dalen, honestly, how many women have you had before?" Lucia felt that Dalen definitely had a lot of women. Otherwise, how could he understand so much? Dalen's eyes glanced away and he said, "A few." "How many are there? 2 is a few. 9 is a few." Lucia persisted. Dalen sighed. 2. So little? Lucia thought. Apart from Bianca, there was only one other person? "I don't believe there were only 2, Lucia said. "Then how many do you think I have?" Dalen's eyes focused on her as he asked. Lucia thought about it. 9. "Why so many?" "I don't know. You just know everything about a woman. You have to have slept with many women. Otherwise, how would you know so much?" Lucia was extremely angry in her heart. When she thought about how Dalen had been with women before, she couldn't help but feel troubled. Dalen smacked his lips in annoyance and said, "You still have so much to learn." "What do you mean?" Lucia was stunned. "Didn't you know about how this all works without any experience at all?" Dalen asked. "Then that's different." Dalen held her waist and started kissing her neck. He said in a low and hoarse voice, "I use all my experience to give you pleasure." A wave of numbness made Lucia pull away from him, breaking his contact with her neck. "Still angry?" Dalen asked lovingly. "Yes." "Because of what?" "You've had women, and I've only had you. It's unfair." Lucia was still angry in her heart. Dalen's expression immediately changed as he said coldly, "How many men do you want?" Lucia was shocked by his tone, and her small mouth moved silently, not saying a word. Lucia directly got off Dalen's lap, and she sat at the furthest position from Dalen. Dalen's expression soured. Lucia was stuck thinking about Dalen's past. How could Dalen clearly remember the 2 women he had known before? Was it because those 2 women had left such a deep impression on him that he couldn't forget them? So who was the other woman? It turned out he didn't only have Bianca, but also another woman. It was already a headache to deal with Bianca. Lucia couldn't imagine dealing with another spurned lover. Could it be that she would come out of nowhere and arrogantly ask her to divorce Dalen? The anger in Lucia's heart couldn't be quelled no matter how hard she tried. She thought about the video showing Dalen and Bianca together. If there was even another woman, then she wouldn't be able to live. Maybe she could still marry Axel? Dalen still dared to make advances toward her. He didn't know how to repent at all. He was so overbearing. The atmosphere in the car was awkward all the way back to the mansion. When they arrived at the mansion, Lucia got out of the car, looking pale. After entering the hall, she did not head upstairs. Instead, she sat down on the sofa in the hall. Lucia looked at Dalen as he walked straight towards the stairs, as if he didn't see her. Lucia pulled up the cushion and was about to throw it at him. However, Dalen warned her coldly, as if he had eyes on the back of his head. "Don't." Lucia's hands froze. She didn't throw the cushion. She slammed it back onto the sofa angrily. In her mind, she thought boldly, "I want to smash you and knock you out." After Dalen went upstairs, Lucia sat on the sofa and watched TV. She decided that her and Dalen's relationship was irreconcilable. "I'm hungry. I want to eat," Lucia shouted towards the ceiling of the mansion. John walked over and asked, "Young madame, what do you want to eat?" "I want to eat pasta." Lucia didn't have much dinner earlier. She thought that if she went to the bar and found a male model, she would be in a better mood. Unexpectedly, Not only did she not feel better, the pressure on her heart became even worse. She could not believe that Dalen was such a person. But what about the video? Dalen even lied that he had met with Bianca. How could she believe anything he said? Young madame? Young madame. Lucia snapped out of her daze and saw John standing in front of her. What? Are you okay? John asked worriedly. I'm fine. What's wrong? Lucia snapped. The pasta is done. Are you going to eat here? John asked. Yes, I'll choose a nice horror movie to watch while I eat, Lucia decided. I'll bring it over for you right now. John turned around and left. A moment later, he brought her the pasta. It was placed on the coffee table in front of her. John said, The coffee table is a little short. Is it inconvenient to eat here? How about I get someone to change the table? No need. I'm sitting on the carpet. Lucia sat down on the soft carpet with her legs crossed. She sniffed at the pasta. Wow, this smells amazing. John smiled and turned to leave. Lucia called out to him. Do you have anything else to do? There's nothing else, John said. Then come watch a horror movie with me. John was afraid of watching horror movies. Every night when John was on duty, because the mansion was so big, he was afraid, and he always asked another servant to accompany him. But he didn't expect Lucia to invite him to watch a horror movie. The words alone were enough to shock him. What is it? Is there a problem? You're not afraid, are you? Lucia asked when she thought of this possibility. No, I'm not afraid of movies. Those are fake. What's there to be afraid of? John heard himself say. It's like he could not stop himself from saying words that disobeyed his will. Really? I also like watching horror movies. It seems like we have the same hobby. I'll call you over when I watch horror movies from now on, Lucia said happily. The fear in John's heart expanded. Was he trying to make himself suffer? Why couldn't he just refuse? However, when he saw Lucia's happy expression, he couldn't say a word. He had to stand there and watch with her. Don't just stand there. Sit on the sofa beside me and watch, Lucia said. No need. I just stand here and watch. John quickly refused. He had never sat on this sofa before. This couch was not something a servant could sit on. It's only for an hour or two. Aren't you tired of standing? Sit on the sofa and come here. Lucia frowned as she spoke. Also, I don't want to sit. It's really good for me to stand. Usually I work longer than this, so it's not a big deal. John still refused. Are you hesitant to sit down? Lucia asked. John didn't say anything, but his expression told her everything. The young madam was treating him well, but he couldn't really sit on the sofa without thinking about her status. It was too untactful. You can't even sit in this house? How does this household function like this? Lucia asked gloomily. Of course not. John could feel the change in Lucia's mood, so he quickly said, I'll talk to my supervisor about this. With that, John ran off to find Edward. Lucia ate her pasta. Soon after, John came over and sat down on the sofa. Ah, it has begun, John said nervously. Then the two of them started watching horror movies. John was quietly watching while Lucia was enjoying the pasta. The movie was about a woman walking into a dark room with only one candle in her hand. The flame flickered weakly. As if driven by a cold wind, the atmosphere was very strange. Then, in the next second, the candle went out and everything went dark. John was so nervous that he wanted to turn his eyes away. However, he heard Lucia say disdainfully, It's practically child's play. It's obvious that someone is up to something in the dark. Madame, have you seen the movie before? John asked. No, I guessed, she responded. In the video, another black shadow pounced on the nervous girl. See? I guessed it, Lucia said. Yes. John felt sweat on his forehead. Suddenly, he felt that he was too old to watch this. His heart was too weak to handle the suspense and horror. How could this young lady be so bold? When Dalen finished his shower, Lucia still hadn't come back to their room. As he walked out of the room, his tall and broad figure silently stood by the railing, watching Lucia eating and watching TV. She even made a few comments from time to time. She was in a good mood. Lucia was watching the movie when she noticed Dalen coming down the stairs. He didn't come to the hall but went straight to the study room. Then she heard the door of the study close. Tch. Lucia curled her lips. When John noticed Dalen's figure, he quickly stood to the side. He was shocked. Lucia said with a puzzled expression, "We haven't finished watching it yet. Sit down." "It won't be long. I'll just stand there and watch." John did not have the guts to sit by Lucia. Lucia didn't insist and let him be. More than an hour later, the movie was over and the pasta was long gone. Lucia had no intention of going to her room to continue watching movies. John asked, "Madame, it's already very late. Do you want to go upstairs to rest?" Couldn't John understand? She was angry with Dalen. "It's still early," Lucia said, without even looking at the time. "It's not early anymore. It's almost 10 o'clock, John said. "But I'm not sleepy. I still want to watch another movie. I'll go to sleep after it's over." It will be almost 12 o'clock by the time she's done, John thought. "Go back to your work. I'll go to sleep after I finish watching," Lucia said. John left the hall in a depressed manner and went to find Edward. "Young Madame has been staying in the hall to watch movies all this time. What should I do?" "Where's Mr. Patrick?" Edward asked. "In the study. They seem to be in a fight," John said in a low voice. "We can't get involved in this kind of thing. Don't worry, the young madam will be fine," John said calmly. "Fine." John obviously knew how protective Mr. Patrick was about Mrs. Patrick. Just like last time when the young madam was called by Linda to do menial jobs in the big house, she had lost a lot of weight. Even now, John could still remember how angry Mr. Patrick had been. So how could Lucia bear staying up late at night? When John finally made his way to the main hall, he found Lucia already asleep with her head tilted to the side, leaning against the sofa. Just as he wanted to wake Lucia to tell her to sleep upstairs, he saw Dalen walking out of the study. He walked straight to Lucia, picked her up, and carried her back to their room. John felt a sweet sensation in his heart as he looked at them. He suddenly felt that he should persuade the young madam not to be angry with Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick was so good to her. How could she bear to stay angry with him? When Lucia woke up in the morning, she found herself in the big bed in her bedroom. What was going on? How did she get back to her room? Did she walk back on her own? Was she sleepwalking? She remembered that she had been a little sleepy at the end of the movie yesterday and had closed her eyes. So Dalen carried her back? When she saw that she had been changed into her pajamas, she was sure that it was Dalen. Only he would do such a thing. Who knew how many times he had already done it? Although there was no sign of Dalen on the bed. Where was he? Wake her. Every night when John was on duty, because the mansion was so big, he was afraid. Every night when John was on duty, because the mansion was so big, he was afraid, and he always asked another servant to accompany him. But he didn't expect Lucia to invite him to watch a horror movie. The words alone were enough to shock him. "What is it? Is there a problem? You're not afraid, are you?" Lucia asked when she thought of this possibility. "No, I'm not afraid of movies. Those are fake. What's there to be afraid of?" John heard himself say. It's like he could not stop himself from saying words that disobeyed his will. Really? I also like watching horror movies. It seems like we have the same hobby. I'll call you over when I watch horror movies from now on, Lucia said happily. The fear in John's heart expanded. Was he trying to make himself suffer? Why couldn't he just refuse? However, when he saw Lucia's happy expression, he couldn't say a word. He had to stand there and watch with her. Don't just stand there. Sit on the sofa beside me and watch, Lucia said. No need. I just stand here and watch. John quickly refused. He had never sat on this sofa before. This couch was not something a servant could sit on. It's only for an hour or two. Aren't you tired of standing? Sit on the sofa and come here. Lucia frowned as she spoke. Also, I don't want to sit. It's really good for me to stand. Usually I work longer than this, so it's not a big deal. John still refused. Are you hesitant to sit down? Lucia asked. John didn't say anything, but his expression told her everything. The young madam was treating him well, but he couldn't really sit on the sofa without thinking about her status. It was too untactful. You can't even sit in this house? How does this household function like this? Lucia asked gloomily. Of course not. John could feel the change in Lucia's mood, so he quickly said, I'll talk to my supervisor about this. With that, John ran off to find Edward. Lucia ate her pasta. Soon after, John came over and sat down on the sofa. Ah, it has begun, John said nervously. Then the two of them started watching horror movies. John was quietly watching while Lucia was enjoying the pasta. The movie was about a woman walking into a dark room with only one candle in her hand. The flame flickered weakly. As if driven by a cold wind, the atmosphere was very strange. Then, in the next second, the candle went out and everything went dark. John was so nervous that he wanted to turn his eyes away. However, he heard Lucia say disdainfully, It's practically child's play. It's obvious that someone is up to something in the dark. Madame, have you seen the movie before? John asked. No, I guessed, she responded. In the video, another black shadow pounced on the nervous girl. See? I guessed it, Lucia said. Yes. John felt sweat on his forehead. Suddenly, he felt that he was too old to watch this. His heart was too weak to handle the suspense and horror. How could this young lady be so bold? When Dalen finished his shower, Lucia still hadn't come back to their room. As he walked out of the room, his tall and broad figure silently stood by the railing, watching Lucia eating and watching TV. She even made a few comments from time to time. She was in a good mood. Lucia was watching the movie when she noticed Dalen coming down the stairs. He didn't come to the hall but went straight to the study room. Then she heard the door of the study close. Lucia curled her lips. When John noticed Dalen's figure, he quickly stood to the side. He was shocked. Lucia said with a puzzled expression, We haven't finished watching it yet. Sit down. It won't be long. I'll just stand there and watch. John did not have the guts to sit by Lucia. Lucia didn't insist and let him be. More than an hour later, the movie was over and the pasta was long gone. Lucia had no intention of going to her room to continue watching movies. John asked, Madame, it's already very late. Do you want to go upstairs to rest? Couldn't John understand? She was angry with Dalen. It's still early, Lucia said, without even looking at the time. It's not early anymore. It's almost 10 o'clock, John said. But I'm not sleepy. I still want to watch another movie. I'll go to sleep after it's over. It will be almost 12 o'clock by the time she's done, John thought. Go back to your work. I'll go to sleep after I finish watching, Lucia said. John left the hall in a depressed manner and went to find Edward. Young Madame has been staying in the hall to watch movies all this time. What should I do? Where's Mr. Patrick? Edward asked. In the study, they seem to be in a fight, John said in a low voice. We can't get involved in this kind of thing. Don't worry, the young madam will be fine, John said calmly. Fine. John obviously knew how protective Mr. Patrick was about Mrs. Patrick. Just like last time when the young madam was called by Linda to do menial jobs in the big house, she had lost a lot of weight. Even now, John could still remember how angry Mr. Patrick had been. So how could Lucia bear staying up late at night? When John finally made his way to the main hall, he found Lucia already asleep with her head tilted to the side, leaning against the sofa. Just as he wanted to wake Lucia to tell her to sleep upstairs, he saw Dalen walking out of the study. He walked straight to Lucia, picked her up, and carried her back to their room. John felt a sweet sensation in his heart as he looked at them. He suddenly felt that he should persuade the young madam not to be angry with Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick was so good to her. How could she bear to stay angry with him? When Lucia woke up in the morning, she found herself in the big bed in her bedroom. What was going on? How did she get back to her room? Did she walk back on her own? Was she sleepwalking? She remembered that she had been a little sleepy at the end of the movie yesterday and had closed her eyes. So Dalen carried her back? When she saw that she had been changed into her pajamas, she was sure that it was Dalen. Only he would do such a thing. Who knew how many times he had already done it? Although there was no sign of Dalen on the bed. Where was he? Elsewhere in the room, there seemed to be no movement. She didn't care where he was. She was angry now anyway. Very angry. Lucia looked at the pillow beside her. The place on top of the pillow was already fluffed back up, which meant that Dalen had been up for a long time. Lucia got angrier the more she looked at the pillow. She stretched out her feet and rubbed them against it with all her might. Let Dalen smell her stinky feet when he goes to sleep at night. When she was done, she sniffed the pillow. There was no smell of smelly feet, only the smell of Dalen's shampoo. Thus, she once again rubbed her feet until they were red. Just as she put her nose up to smell again, she saw Dalen walk in. Instinctively, she hugged the pillow and pretended to sleep, her face sullen. However, 3 seconds later, she felt that something was wrong. The pillow she was holding was not hers, but Dalen's. She was sleeping on Dalen's side. Thus, she silently got up from the bed and went to the cloakroom to dress. After washing up, she left the room. From beginning to end, she didn't even look at Dalen. Dalen didn't do anything, and his face was expressionless. However, he felt that his wife was really cute and interesting. When Lucia left the room, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch into a smile. After walking out of the room, Lucia's face instantly flushed red. She pressed her face with her hands, trying to cool down the heat. She realized that her face was really hot. Heavens, why did she hug Dalen's pillow? What would Dalen think? Did he think she was abnormal? Lucia went downstairs, but before she even entered the dining room, John had already come over. Young madame. What? She said. I have something to say to you. Okay, then say it. What was so urgent this early in the morning? Mr. Patrick came downstairs early, then went into the kitchen and made a cake for the young madame to eat. Lucia was stunned. Her heart felt as if it had been struck by something. Then it melted. No wonder she didn't see Dalen when she woke up today. It turned out that he had made her a cake so early on in the morning. Lucia had said that if she got angry, he should make a cake for her. She thought Dalen was going to stay mad at her. He actually made a cake. So, seeing that Mr. Patrick is making you a cake, don't be angry. John was afraid that Lucia would anger Dalen. John continued, Young madame, you should go take a look. You can't stay angry when you see the cake. Lucia walked into the dining room and saw a cake on the table. When she saw the cake, Lucia's heart melted like the icing on the cake. It was always touching when unexpected things like this happened. However, when she saw the picture of a wolfhound on the cake, Lucia's face turned dark. When Lucia stretched out her fingers to wipe off the wolfhound, her wrist was grabbed. "You... let me go!" Lucia's face was slightly hot. "Still angry?" Dalen lowered his head and leaned his lips against Lucia's ear. His voice was low and hoarse. Lucia bit her lips. Did she say she was angry? But she had said before that if she was angry, he could make a cake. If she was still angry now, wouldn't she look petty? "I'm hungry and want to eat breakfast," Lucia said. "No cake?" Dalen asked. "I'm not eating it." "Have a bite." "No." Dalen's voice sank. "Let me feed it to you." After a brief discussion, Dalen handed a spoonful of cake to Lucia. Lucia didn't understand. Why did Dalen spend his time thinking about her while he was still confused about his feelings for Bianca? She stared at the cake in front of her for a moment before opening her mouth and eating it. Sweet and delicious. As John had predicted, she liked it. Dalen always knew her weakness. Later, when she arrived at the company, the moment Cole saw her, he immediately rushed over and checked up and down to see if Lucia was missing an arm or a leg. "What are you looking at?" Lucia frowned. "Let me see if you are still in good condition," Cole said. "Why do you want to know if I'm all right?" "Did you think I was hurt?" Lucia said hoarsely. "The situation last night was so dangerous, I was worried." "Worried? You ran away." Lucia thought back to last night when Cole was such a disloyal person, and she instantly became angry. This is your family's matter, so it wasn't good for me to stay there. Don't you think so? Mainly, you shouldn't have gone looking for male models. Otherwise, Dalen wouldn't be so angry. Cole stammered. Why should he be angry? He's been meeting with Bianca in secret. Lucia couldn't calm down when she thought of Bianca. Even after a night's sleep. Even after eating cake. Dalen confused Lucia. One moment she was left smitten by his gestures, and the next she was hit hard with the possibility that everything Dalen did was probably nothing more than just a show, put up for a reason still unknown to her. You don't understand a man's mentality. No matter how a man acts, the wife has to be loyal to him, Cole said. So you think Dalen is such a person? Lucia asked. I didn't say that. You said it just now. I heard it clearly, Lucia said. Cole felt that he'd said too much. This problem has not been solved yet. It was getting bigger and bigger. So he comforted her. Actually, I think Dalen must have had something to deal with when he went to find Bianca. See how much he cares about you. He showed up not long after you went to the bar. If he didn't care, he wouldn't go that fast, right? After Cole finished speaking, he noticed that Lucia was staring at him. He asked in confusion, Why are you looking at me? I'm surprised. What's strange? Why did Dalen come so fast after I went to the bar? Cole, it can't be that you secretly told Dalen, right? Lucia looked at him sharply. Cole said in disbelief, How could I possibly do such a thing? Lucia was doubtful. But who knew except you that I was going to the bar? Dalen can't just follow me 24/7, right? Lucia thought hard. Cole suggested, He could make his bodyguard follow you. Lucia thought that was a likely possibility. Previously, when Dalen was not around, he had asked Spencer to follow her. Could it have been Spencer? Lucia rubbed her chin as she pondered. It must have been him, Cole said without a doubt. Why? Lucia asked. Have you forgotten? He threw me down once. Would anyone else do such a thing? Definitely not. Cole was also a vengeful person. But looking back, it was fairly likely. Lucia was lost in thought for a moment. She stood up, opened the office door and peeked outside. "What are you looking at?" Cole asked. "I'm seeing if Spencer is outside," Lucia answered. "Stop looking. You won't be able to see him. Besides, he wouldn't appear in the company, and you didn't do anything." Lucia retracted her head. Cole's words were right. If Dalen was up to something, she wouldn't be able to see it. "In that case, you won't be able to go to the orphanage this afternoon, right?" Cole said. "What are you talking about?" Lucia asked. "Didn't you see the chat?" "Nope." Lucia opened her chat app. Lucia saw that there were a lot of messages on the chat, but she couldn't be bothered to read them. She said to Cole, "Just tell me directly." "It was organized by the school. Although we work for the company, we are still students. It would be nice to participate in this event. But if you don't want to go, I'll go alone. I just need to ask for a half-day leave of absence," Cole said. "I'll go too," Lucia decided. The two of them went to the designated orphanage in the afternoon. The other students came as well. When the students saw Lucia and Cole, they greeted them. "Hey guys, haven't seen you two in school for a long time. Where do I get rich like you guys?" he said. "I heard that you two work for the Patrick family, right?" another asked. Cole said, No, we work for a small company." "What are you being modest for? There's no need to hide," a classmate said. Lucia looked over. "That's right, Cole. Tell us about it. Isn't it good working at Patrick's?" the first student asked. "I already said that we're not at Patrick's. What else can I say?" Cole said with his head down. "Let them chit-chat." "All right, say what you need to say," Lucia said. A few people could not keep their faces straight and turned to leave. 3 or 4 people stayed and said, "Don't lower yourself to the same level as them. They're just jealous." "That's right. They said that when you were at the school. Everyone at school knows that you work at the Patrick family." Lucia was frustrated. "I don't work for the Patrick family. It's just that my dad left me a company after he passed away and I'm running it." The students were surprised. "Lucia, you became the boss?" "Lucia, your family is so rich. Why did you come to our school to study?" Lucia asked them, "Isn't this school good?" You can't put it like that. Compared to other schools, we can't even compare. Does this mean Cole also works for your company?" "Right." Lucia did not hide anything. What was there to hide? "Lucia, can we also work at your company? It's fine if our salary is low, but give us a chance to practice." "The company isn't hiring anyone right now," Lucia said. "You're the boss, though." The student giggled. If only I could be the true boss, Lucia thought helplessly. Mark was the one in charge of hiring for the company. To be exact, Dalen was controlling it. However, Lucia couldn't say that she was a puppet boss, right? How embarrassing. She said, "I'll see when the time comes. If there's a vacancy, I'll call you. You have to know I'm not the only one in charge of the company. I can't afford to offend any of my managers." "Thank you so much," they said in unison. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome." After the other students left, Cole said, "Are you really going to hire them?" "I told you, I'm the boss." When the orphanage staff arrived, they were assigned tasks. Lucia and Cole were responsible for repainting the wall. Lucia looked at those adorable children who were jumping around and playing. She sighed and said, "These children are so cute and healthy. Why were they abandoned by their parents?" Cole answered, "Various reasons. You forget that when we were freshmen, a girl got pregnant and gave the child to an orphanage. They're the kind of people who just want to have a moment of happiness, but don't plan their future lives. The sudden appearance of a child is shocking." Lucia was silent. How happy she was, born with a mother and father. Lucia felt that she was extremely insensible at that time, quarreling with her father all day long. Who is that? Lucia, who was lost in thought, was jolted back to reality by Cole's words. She raised her head and followed Cole's gaze to the entrance of the orphanage. 2 cars were stopped outside the door. She wasn't familiar with the car in front, but she knew the car in the back. It was Axel. Then the person in the car in front must be Robert. Lucia was curious. Why would they be here? She then saw the dean come out and welcome them. No matter what, Lucia thought, I'm still the boss of a company. Mr. Patrick, you're here? You are such a merciful person, a patron to all these children, the dean said excitedly. Cole whispered, You didn't know they would be here? Lucia answered, Don't you know? Every year they do charity work in various orphanages. I didn't expect it to be today. What a coincidence. Ah, so handsome. He's just like Prince Charming. Lucia looked towards Axel. He was once my Prince Charming. Cole whispered in Lucia's ear, Looks like they're quite kind, so we were wrong to blame them? If you were so good to someone else's child, how could you bully your own nephew? Lucia also felt it was strange. What kind of person was Robert? Maybe he was doing this charity just to cover up his evil? Whether or not it was a cover-up, these children had benefited from it. This made Lucia have a whole new level of respect for him. Actually, Lucia didn't want Robert to hurt Dalen. So what good would it do to turn a family relationship into an enemy? But could Dalen be wrong? Or was she wrong? Robert and the others brought a lot of gifts and distributed them among the children. The children were overjoyed, feeling that these were gifts from heaven. Afterwards, Robert and Axel walked into the courtyard. Axel suddenly looked back and smiled at Lucia. That smile caused Lucia to be stunned, as if she had lost her breath. Lucia thought back to the first time they met. Axel's smile was just that warm. The children called out to him and followed him, perhaps attracted by the warmth of his personality. Come back to reality. Cole waved his hand in front of Lucia. Lucia snapped back to reality. What? Look at how you saw Axel just now. If Dalen sees it, you will definitely be in trouble, Cole said. What are you scoffing for? This is a kind reminder to you. Don't be saying that I am heartless and ignore you. Without a word, Lucia smeared the paint on her finger onto Cole's face. Ah! What are you doing? I won't forgive you. Cole directly put a large amount of paint on his finger and was about to smear it on Lucia's face when Lucia turned around and ran. Lucia, you can run, but you can't hide. Cole chased after her. Lucia ran without looking back. Soon enough, she was nowhere to be seen. Cole was so angry that he shrieked. When he saw the paint on his finger, his face turned sinister. Lucia turned her head and saw no sign of Cole chasing after her. She knew he couldn't catch up to her. She felt complacent in her heart. However, just as she was feeling pleased with herself, she bumped into someone. Sorry, Axel? When Lucia saw that the person she bumped into was Axel, she was stunned for a moment. Axel laughed. Running so fast, aren't you afraid of falling? I'm too old to fall, Lucia answered. Axel couldn't help but chuckle as he looked at her blushing face. Then she said, Axel, I didn't expect you and Robert to be doing charity in an orphanage. I've heard people say that you come here every year, right? I didn't expect that we would meet so coincidentally today. That's right. We come here every year. I also didn't expect to meet you here, Axel said. The school informed me at the last minute. I didn't have much to do, so I ran over here. This is a good thing. Everyone should do it, said Lucia. In my heart, you have always been a kind girl, Axel said emotionally. Lucia's face turned red with embarrassment. I think the same of you. Lucia didn't know how to resist when someone praised her. How are you and Dalen? Axel asked. Not bad, Lucia smiled. It seemed that Axel would ask this question almost every time, as if she was in a bad situation. Was he worried about her? They used to be good friends. Axel never asked why she married Dalen, and Lucia never told him. It seemed like the two of them had a tacit understanding to not talk about it and avoid the topic. So all that was left was a simple question like, "Are you and my brother okay?" "I never had the time to ask you about what happened in the mansion. My brother wasn't angry after I left, right?" Axel asked. Lucia looked away. "Why do you ask?" "I remember my brother's expression wasn't very good." "No, he was born with that kind of expression. It has nothing to do with you. We've already forgotten about this matter, so you should not take it to heart. It is just a small matter," Lucia said openly. Originally, this had nothing to do with Axel. It was Dalen who was being overbearing and unreasonable. Axel looked at Lucia for a long time and asked, "Lucia, do you like my brother?" "Huh? Why did you suddenly ask this question?" This was so awkward. "I'm just asking. I just want to know if you're happy or not." Axel didn't look uncomfortable at all. He was quite calm. Therefore, Lucia did not avoid the question and said, "Isn't this how couples are like? Good days and bad days, and life goes on." Why did Lucia feel like she was a middle-aged woman when she said that? Axel smiled, but didn't say anything. His gentle eyes were filled with Lucia's figure. "Why are you here? Little John has been looking for you." Robert walked over and was surprised when he saw Lucia. "Lucia is also here?" "Hello, Robert." "Did you come from that university to work as a volunteer?" Robert asked. "Yes, I did come to volunteer with the school," Lucia said. Robert said to Axel, "You should hurry up and go. Little John must still be looking for you." "I'll come look for you later," Axel said to Lucia. "Sure." Lucia smiled. After Axel left, Lucia said to Robert, "Robert, if there's nothing else, I'll just go over there and paint until I'm done." "No rush. I have something to say to you." Robert moved to block her path. What could he say to me? Lucia thought. "I heard that Dalen hasn't been feeling very well for the past few months," Robert asked. Lucia felt uncomfortable when she heard this. What did he mean by not feeling well? Dalen's body had always been in good shape and extremely strong. When Robert said that, why did it sound like a curse? "His body is doing pretty good. Even someone like you can have such a strong and healthy body, so what about Dalen? His body is doing pretty good. Even someone like you can have such a strong and healthy body, so what about Dalen? If we say that Dalen's health is not good, then the other people's health is abysmal." Lucia's words were laced with a cold tone. However, Robert acted as if he didn't understand what she meant, and said, "Last time in the mansion, I saw that he didn't look too good, but I didn't have the nerve to ask because he didn't look like he wanted to tell me. Actually, I already knew that he was shot. No matter how well he hides it, I will still know." "How did you know? Did it have something to do with you?" Lucia didn't admit or deny it as she asked with a joking expression on her face. Robert let out a worried sigh and said, "He is my only nephew. If I don't look out for him, who will? I even know that he's hurt his hand recently because he saved you, right?" Lucia didn't say anything, but she felt intimidated by Robert's piercing words. Why? Why is he watching Dalen's every move like this? Isn't that strange? Did Dalen know what Robert was thinking? If not, he should know. As expected, the rich were always full of schemes and tricks. To think of the irony of it all, Robert was there for charity. Robert continued, "Dalen, I watched him grow up. Sometimes when you do something, you don't care about the consequences. I don't even know how to tell him. I'm too old for this fighting. As his wife, you should also remind him from time to time." Robert's current expression was as if he was a father worrying about a son. Lucia really felt like throwing up when she heard this. anyone who knew Dalen would know that he was very ruthless and arrogant. However, it wasn't Robert's job to teach him, right? Lucia thought to herself in a humorous manner, maybe all the Patrick family members were scheming this way? "What are you thinking about?" Robert asked, after seeing that Lucia did not speak for a long time. Ever since I married Dalen, I haven't found anything wrong with him. He is nice to me, too. What do you want me to remind him of from time to time?" Lucia asked innocently. Robert went silent for a moment and said, "Since you don't know anything, then forget it. My big brother died early, so as his uncle, I should properly teach him." After saying all that, he turned around and left. Lucia ground her teeth. Did Robert arrange for some spies to follow Dalen? Otherwise, how would he know all this? It was creepy. If he knew Dalen's every move, then wouldn't it be easy for him to hurt Dalen if he wanted to? Lucia couldn't help but to worry that Dalen would be tricked by Robert. How long has it been since the last time he was shot? "Lucia?" Lucia snapped out of her daze and looked up at Axel, who had walked in front of her. "Why are you standing here in a daze? Has my dad left?" Axel asked. He just left," Lucia answered. "Just left? You were standing here talking that whole time?" Axel frowned. "Yeah, I said a lot. What's the matter? Is there a problem?" Lucia asked as she looked at Axel's abnormal expression. Axel looked at Lucia with a stagnant expression and said, "Lucia, if you have anything to say, just tell it to me. It's the same." "Axel, I don't quite understand what you mean." Why did Axel's expression suddenly turn serious? He seemed to be trying his best to conceal something. Axel whispered, "You don't need to understand. You just need to know that I won't harm you. Even if you have something to tell my dad in the future, you can just tell me and then I'll pass it on to him. Understand?" Axel's expression was very cautious. When Lucia left the orphanage, she was still thinking about what Axel had said to her. He spoke in such a serious manner. It was as if he didn't want her to come into contact with Robert. Why? Could it be that Axel knew Robert's personality, so he felt he needed to warn her to stay away from him and be careful? That must be it. Axel couldn't possibly harm her. Robert was too insidious. Even Axel had to protect her from him. She and Cole rode back to the company. After a few minutes of silence, Cole said, "What are you thinking? Ever since we left the orphanage, you've been silent." "Nothing. I was just thinking about those pitiful children." Lucia felt that her thoughts were a bit too dangerous, so she didn't tell Cole about it. When she thought about the fire and how she almost dragged Cole into it, she didn't want to sing anymore. "How can you be so loving?" Cole couldn't believe it. Lucia was usually so selfish. "What is it? Would you be my friend if I didn't have love?" Lucia snapped. "I can't imagine what it would be like if you had children," Cole joked. Lucia was also curious. Why? She thought Cole would imagine how great a mother she would be. Cole continued, "I can imagine. You walking in front, the child walking behind. You had a good time, but then the next second, you forget you even have a child." Cole smiled evilly as he imagined that scene. Lucia was upset. "Cole, I still have paint on my hands," she yelled as they got out of the car. "Ah, what are you doing?" Cole instinctively ran. Only after running a few steps did he realize that Lucia was teasing him. He had been toyed with twice in the afternoon by Lucia. The paint on his face was not the kind that could be easily washed off. "I see how you'll take care of your child in the future," Cole said. Lucia imagined how it would look when she was pregnant, how it would make her collapse from crying in pain. She suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. How could she take care of a child? We just got married, so I don't have to think about having a baby right away, Lucia said. But you're a married young woman now. If you're married, you have to have children someday, Cole said. Instead of answering, she ran after Cole and attacked him. Just as the two of them were having fun, a figure jumped over from the side and dashed toward Lucia. Ah! Lucia, who was caught off guard, fell to the ground. She groaned as her arm hit the ground. Cole immediately rushed forward and pushed the madman away. Is there something wrong with you? You bumped into her. Then he helped Lucia up and asked worriedly, How are you? When Cole touched her arm, Lucia gasped from the pain. When she looked again, she found there was a gash on the arm from a stone, and blood was flowing out of it. Lucia really wanted to chop that person into pieces. She was astonished when she looked up at their attacker. This person's face was disfigured. It was so ugly, as if it had been burned by something. If not for her figure, it would have been impossible to tell that she was a woman. It's wrong for you to come out and scare me, Lucia said. Lucia, I wish I could kill you. The disfigured woman made an angry, desperate sound. Why does this voice sound so familiar? Cole asked. Lucia also felt the voice was familiar. The key point was that this person seemed to know her, so she uncertainly asked, Bianca? Cole was stunned. Really? Didn't Bianca look like you? How did her face become like this? When Cole asked this question, Bianca became even more agitated. Are you disappointed that I'm still alive? It's all because of you. It's because of you that my face has become like this. Me? What has it got to do with me? Lucia asked, puzzled. Because Dylan did it. He ruined my face and I'm going to kill you. Anyway, I have nothing left now. When Lucia saw Bianca running towards her, she lost her mind. She immediately turned around and pulled Cole away, saying, Let's go. They got on the bus and saw Bianca chasing after them like crazy, until she was no longer visible. Cole looked at Lucia with lingering fear, asking softly, What's going on? Didn't you say that Dylan still had feelings for her? Why did he ruin her face so much? I don't know, Lucia said. But in her heart, she knew what happened. Even Bianca herself said that Dylan destroyed her, so she came to get revenge. No doubt about it. The photo Tracy Parker had taken was real, but it wasn't about Dylan having a meal with Bianca. It was about him taking her somewhere discreet. Cole didn't know what was going on in Lucia's heart. However, he did not ask any further. Lucia did not understand why Dylan wanted to kill Bianca. Did Bianca do anything? The wound on Lucia's arm had to be treated and might even need a tetanus shot. After going to the hospital, luckily they discovered the wound was not deep. The doctor only put on a Band-Aid. Lucia said, Cole, don't tell anyone that Bianca pushed me down. Just directly tell me, not to Dylan, Cole replied. I only said that because I knew you understood. Cole continued, Speaking of which, didn't you really hate her? And now you're actually thinking of helping her? Lucia had no choice but to consider it. She knew how ruthless Dylan was, and no matter how much she despised Bianca and her intentions towards her husband, she didn't expect Dylan to ruin her life like this. She still didn't know why Dylan would make a move on Bianca. If she added insult to injury, would Bianca remain alive? At that moment, her phone rang. Lucia rummaged through her bag and took out her phone. The call was from Dylan. In the morning, she was furious. However, now when she saw Dylan's call, she felt a chill run down her spine. He really was uncommonly vicious. Bianca's face was ruined. If she hadn't opened her mouth to speak, Lucia wouldn't have recognized her at all. However, she didn't dare to ignore him. Hey, she answered. Why did you take so long to answer the phone? Dylan asked. Lucia was exasperated. Wasn't she just a few seconds too late? How did it become so long? Dalen continued, "Where are you?" "I'm at the hospital." Lucia still told the truth. She had a sixth sense. Even if she didn't say it, Dalen might still know she was lying. "Not feeling well?" Dalen's voice immediately became heavy with worry. "No, I accidentally fell down and cut my arm. The doctor also said it was all right. All he had to do was stick a Band-Aid on it." When Lucia heard Dalen's deep voice, she instinctively went into detail. Dalen sighed. "Stay there. I'll come get you." That... Before Lucia could finish her refusal, she heard a beeping sound. She looked at her phone again. The call had ended. Lucia was extremely depressed. "Dalen is coming to pick you up?" Cole asked. "How did you know?" "I guessed." Cole didn't just look at Lucia's expression. He knew that if Dalen knew that Lucia was in the hospital, he would definitely come over, no matter how small the wound. "He didn't know where I was when he called, did he?" Lucia asked. "Dalen is so powerful, he probably has eyes everywhere." Cole picked up his bag and said, "I'll be leaving first." "Let's go together. I'll get Dalen to drop you off," Lucia begged. "No need. I'm going to tour a house, by the way," Cole said. "What house?" "I can't stay in my dorm anymore, so I had to find a house. Now that I've found one, I'm going to check it out. When the time comes, I'll ask for your opinion," Cole said tersely. "Aren't you being impolite?" Lucia was surprised. "Of course." Cole turned and walked away. Lucia was waiting for Dalen alone in the hospital. Soon, Dalen arrived. He walked up to her and immediately pulled her arm out to look. Lucia stared at Dalen. She couldn't believe it. Did he really treat Bianca that way? Lucia used to think that Dalen liked Bianca. Just a little. But from the looks of it, he hated her. "Is the wound deep?" Dalen's gaze turned cold. "It's not too deep. It's not a big deal. It was just a rock." Lucia pulled back her arm, feeling that Dalen was making a fuss over nothing. "You even fall like this when you walk?" Dalen's eyes turned dark. "I was having a good time with Cole and then got distracted, so I fell." After Lucia said this, she couldn't tell if Dalen believed her. They got into the car and headed for the mansion. The car drove steadily along the road. Dalen was sitting on a black seat with his long legs crossed. Lucia felt that Dalen was being a little weird. "Where did you go this afternoon?" he asked. Lucia's heart thumped. Dalen was like a strict military officer interrogating his subordinate who had committed a crime. This feeling was truly unbearable. However, Lucia could not pretend that she did not hear him. "How did you know to ask?" Lucia lowered her head and muttered. She believed that Dalen knew everything. He even knew which hospital she would be in without her telling him. "You're speaking too soft for me to hear," Dalen said. "I said I went to the orphanage to do volunteer work. It was organized by the school." Lucia continued under Dalen's pressured gaze. "Also, I ran into Robert and Axel who were doing charity work there." "What a coincidence." Dalen sneered with a gloomy expression. Lucia immediately became cautious. "Cole was there too. He saw it too. Everyone in the orphanage saw it. I was just one of them." "Was Axel happy to see you there?" Dalen asked with an expressionless face. "No. Why would he be happy? It's none of my business whether he goes or not," Lucia said. "You've learned your lesson," Dalen warned. "Of course I do. I clearly remember," Lucia said with a terrible expression. "Repeat it for me," Dalen said evilly. Lucia gritted her teeth. This person was truly horrible. She clearly remembered what he had said, so why did she have to recite it again? "Is that really necessary?" Lucia asked. "Or 200 more times," Dalen was unyielding. Lucia had no choice but to recite it. Dalen did not continue to make things difficult for her after that. Lucia was glad that she had told the truth. Saying a lie in front of Dalen was as frightening as having a sharp knife on her neck. Lucia also had something to ask him. By the way, how did you know I was in this hospital? Did you have someone follow me? Spencer? No need, Dalen answered. Why? You wouldn't be anywhere but this hospital, Dalen said with certainty. Why couldn't I be somewhere else? There are many hospitals in the city, Lucia said, unconvinced. Even if no one follows you, if I want to find you, you won't be able to escape. Just remember that, Dalen said forcefully. Lucia had no reason to doubt this. Dalen indeed had the ability to find her. The more Lucia thought about it, the more pitiful she felt she was. Dalen pulled Lucia over to sit on his lap. What are you doing? I'm sitting fine, she argued. Still angry? Lucia cursed inwardly. Aren't you afraid that I will get angrier by questioning me? Dalen's temper was too erratic, so it was hard to guess. However, since Dalen was going to step down, she might as well. Anyway, she knew that Dalen wasn't dating Bianca, and it was fine as long as he didn't like Bianca. Lucia took a deep breath. I'm not angry anymore. Are you sure you aren't angry? Dalen asked again. Lucia pursed her lips in embarrassment and nodded. I'm not angry anymore. You're not angry anymore, but my anger is still there. Have you thought of how you can coax me? Dalen asked lazily. The trace of a smile froze on Lucia's face. Why are you angry? Didn't you make me a cake? He had been in the mood to make a cake. How could he get angry? Lucia couldn't even imagine being angry and making a cake. These are two different things, Dalen said. How could this be different? Lucia felt that Dalen was purposely toying with her. What if I don't? Then I'll go back and make you do the housework and tire you to death, Dalen teased. Lucia knew that Dalen would definitely do it. Lucia thought to herself, she was just coaxing him. No matter how long it takes, it'll end when we get back to the mansion. Therefore, Lucia braced herself, lowered her eyes, and found Dalen's lips as she kissed him. No matter how prepared Lucia was, she still blushed when they met. Her heartbeat quickened. Don't get distracted. Dalen's sudden words made Lucia's face turn even redder, and her breathing became unstable. Dalen's request made Lucia so shy that she wanted to stop. However, if Dalen didn't calm down, she would definitely be the one to suffer. Perhaps something even more terrible was waiting for her. Lucia, are you daydreaming? Dalen's voice sounded. Lucia was exasperated. Dalen was about to speak. Lucia nimbly ducked her head and sucked on his neck. Dalen was caught off guard. Lucia's face was completely red. She closed her eyes, not daring to look into Dalen's eyes. Dalen was surprised by Lucia's actions, although he didn't want her to stop. Interesting and lovely. She felt that she could not hold on any longer. Because she was the one who took the initiative, Dalen didn't move at all. Are you still angry? When the car stopped in front of the mansion, Lucia's clothes were messy because of the paint in the orphanage. When you get out of the car, you can tidy up your clothes, Dalen said. However, the expression on his face did not fade that easily. While they were eating, Lucia thought of Bianca's appearance. In her heart, she was still afraid of Dalen's methods. Furthermore, it could be seen that Dalen did not care whether the other party was a man or a woman, and did not show any mercy. Dalen? Lucia said hesitantly. What would you do to me if one day I did something wrong? Something you couldn't accept? You want to know? Dalen stared at her with his black eyes. Yes. Lucia nodded vigorously. I will punish you, Dalen said. Do you have to be so ruthless? Lucia was stunned. Yes, Dalen said in an unquestionable tone. Lucia cursed inwardly. Do you have an objection? Dalen asked. If I do something wrong, you can do something else to me. Why are you so cruel? Lucia asked, puzzled. Dalen looked at her coldly. I am already very merciful. If this was kindness, then what was Bianca's? Gentle? Lucia poked the rice in the bowl with her fork, wishing she could poke through the bottom of the bowl. She wanted to let Dalen know how angry she was. Dalen looked at her pouting face, which looked unhappy. His black eyes were filled with danger as he asked, Did you do something wrong that I don't know about? Lucia was stunned for a moment before rebutting, I didn't do anything wrong. If you didn't do anything wrong, then why would you ask such a question? What are you afraid of? I was just randomly asking, Lucia said unhappily. Indeed. Dalen was very confident in this point. Then can you not be so cruel to me? Since you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have to worry about it. No, take it back. Nope. Dalen lowered his head to eat. Lucia said angrily, Dalen, are you thinking of making a cake again? You want to eat it? Dalen asked. Lucia laid her head on the dining table. She had no appetite. What did she want to eat? She just wanted to punish Dalen. Dalen knocked on the table with his fingers. Are you finished? Lucia glared at Dalen. She looked like an angry wolfhound. Dalen felt his heart tighten. I don't want to eat it. Lucia just felt unhappy in her heart. Lucia stood up and left. She played games on her phone after returning to her room. Not long after, Dalen returned to the room. Lucia gritted her teeth as she looked at Dalen, who was unbuttoning his shirt while walking towards the closet. When he came out, Lucia's gaze shifted as she saw the gunshot wound on his abdomen. The scars were still clear. You want to take a bath? Dalen asked. You think I want to wash up with you? I want to play on my cell phone. Lucia looked away. Dalen turned around and went into the bathroom without saying anything. When Lucia saw the wound on Dalen's abdomen, it made her think of what Robert had said earlier in the day, as well as Axel's reminder. She felt uncomfortable in her heart. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed. The pain was unbearable. She knew that Dalen was very strong. Lucia put down her cell phone and jumped off the bed. She pressed her face against the door to the bathroom and asked, Dalen, are you good at fighting? The door was open and she had to stop herself from looking in. Every time he took a bath, he kept the door open. What? Dalen's low and hoarse voice seemed to come from the mist, clear and magnetic. The corner of Lucia's mouth twitched. I won both of them. Dalen's words came again. Lucia was vexed. How do you fight? Want to try? With whom? Lucia was stunned. Me. Lucia seemed to understand what Dalen meant by fight. Her face immediately turned red. I'm asking about serious matters. Are you sure you're good at fighting? Formidable. Lucia thought, if he's that good, he wouldn't be so easily set up, right? Then who's the strongest between you and Robert? After Lucia finished her questions, she did not make a sound. Why did he stop talking? Just as she was feeling weird, she felt a wave of heat coming from the side of her face. When she looked up, she saw Dalen's body in front of her. The heat stained her face, causing it to turn red. Lucia jumped in shock and quickly stood up straight, distancing herself from Dalen. Dalen's mood was even more dangerous. What did Robert say to you? Dalen whispered. Lucia felt that Dalen was too alert. She asked, Why do you assume he said something? No, I know he said something, Dalen answered. Lucia felt that she shouldn't have asked that. She was too naive. She thought Dalen wouldn't notice. Then who should you compete with? It's not like Axel would know how to fight, Lucia said. How do you know he won't fight? The tightness of Dalen's body was even more dangerous. I've known him for so long, but I've never seen him fight before. Did she ask the wrong question again? Since you haven't seen him before, then don't act like you know him well. Dalen scowled, as if he was very angry with Axel. Got it. Lucia bit her lips and stood up to leave. Lucia staggered and nearly fell to the ground. How could he remember such things so clearly? Lucia turned around and looked at Dalen. I'm on my period. Lucia, I know that's a lie. Lucia's body froze at the door of the bathroom. She didn't move for a long time. She felt a sense of fear, even though nothing had happened. Are you going to do that to me? Lucia asked while swallowing. Are you that excited? Don't worry, I will be gentle, Dalen cooed. Gentle? Lucia found that hard to believe. Lucia felt that Dalen was just saying the wrong thing. Lucia, who entered the bathroom, squeezed her little hands together. She tried to prolong the moment by taking a shower once Dalen was done. When Lucia finished her shower, she saw John carrying food in. Lucia moved her head closer to take a look. It was her favorite pasta. The entire room was filled with the delicious smell of the food. It made her stomach rumble with hunger. Lucia thought Dalen must have asked John to cook the pasta for her, but then she saw him sit down at the table and start eating it. Lucia was stunned. Wasn't that food made for her? Isn't it? But then why did Dalen start to eat it? Lucia sat on the sofa angrily and watched Dalen eat. Dalen acted as though he hadn't noticed her. This was too much. Lucia suddenly stood up, walked to Dalen's side, and asked unhappily, Is that for me? Nope, they made it for me, Dalen said, without raising his head. Since when do you eat pasta? Lucia asked curiously. Since now. Then why are there two sets of utensils? They got it wrong. Dalen said every word as if it was a matter of fact. Lucia gritted her teeth in anger and asked, You ate so much all by yourself. Are you going to finish it all? I can finish it. No, I want to eat it too. Lucia moved to snatch the bowl. Dalen refused. I thought you weren't hungry. I'm hungry now. She picked up the utensils and sat down. Then she picked up the bowl of pasta. I want to eat it. She moved her head over and stuffed pasta into her mouth, just like a bandit. However, she didn't notice the deep smile in Dalen's eyes. Dalen put his fork to the side. Lucia still had spaghetti in her mouth as she asked, Are you not eating anymore? I'm full. Then I'll eat the rest. Lucia held the bowl up to her face. She held it with one hand and stuffed the food into her mouth with the other. Dalen just sat there and watched her eat. Seeing her eat so much, his face flushed red. Lucia didn't care whether Dalen was staring at her or not. She slurped the remaining spaghetti into her mouth. Dalen's eyes darkened even more as he looked at her delicate hands. His blood was boiling. Come here. Dalen lowered his voice. Lucia looked at Dalen in confusion and asked, What? Dalen was too lazy to speak anymore. He directly pulled Lucia over. Lucia sat on Dalen's body and leaned on Dalen's chest. What are you doing? I've just eaten. Lucia's words were rudely interrupted by Dalen, who pulled Lucia up to stand. He said, Let's take a walk. We can't go to sleep immediately. But when Lucia wanted to speak, she was stopped. Did it have to be like this? The next day, in the office, Lucia was lying on the desk. The problem she had been thinking about last night was still there. "I can't help you with that. Go find someone else," Cole said. "I don't want everyone to know." Cole asked curiously, "Speaking of which, what exactly is your intention?" "I have no intention." The more Lucia thought about it, the more her brain hurt. This was because this was not a good thing. As Dalen's wife, she couldn't possibly continue to keep running away from Dalen, right? As she thought of this, the bashfulness in Lucia's heart was suddenly revealed. Cole looked at Lucia's infatuated expression. Lucia grabbed her phone and sent a message. "Lucia, can you promise me one thing?" He replied quickly. "Master." "No." The corner of Lucia's mouth twitched down. "Do you want to do this?" "Lucia, I haven't said what it is yet." "Master, since you didn't say anything, how can I agree?" Lucia cursed under her breath. As expected of Dalen, he was smart. "Lucia, fine. I just want you to be gentle with me." Even though it was just typing, Lucia still blushed furiously, her face burning. She hoped that Dalen would agree. However, Dalen's actions had always made it so hard for her to guess. "Master, it will be comfortable enough." "Lucia, you are too selfish. You only know how comfortable it is." "Master, I'm talking about you." "Lucia, ... Lucia continued to lie down on the table with a flushed face and a phone in her hands. "Forget it. There's no way for me to get along with Dalen. I won't ask. We'll just have to see when the time comes." She shouldn't be scared. What was there to be afraid of? She thought about her first time with Dalen. No matter how scared she was, how hesitant she was to be completely naked in front of Dalen for the first time, it still felt right. She felt protected, calm, and at ease with everything that followed. She closed her eyes. A few days later, Tracy Parker's 10-inch high heels came clicking into the company again. At the elevator, she met Mark, who was about to go to another department. "Why are you here again?" Mark apparently had a problem with his ex-wife's constant visits to his office, especially since Tracy was famous. He didn't want anything to do with her. "What, you're the only one who can come to the company?" Tracy asked with a sneer as she took off her sunglasses. "Indeed not, but I can call security." Mark took out his phone and was about to make a call. "Wait." Tracy pressed down on Mark's hand that was about to make a call. "I'm not here for you, so don't get all excited." "Who are you looking for?" Mark asked. "Do you care about my whereabouts?" Tracy asked with a smile as she moved closer to Mark. Mark's expression did not change and he did not budge. "If you are here to look for Mrs. Patrick, I suggest you not." "If you are so worried about me, then marry me again. I wouldn't look for her if I were to remarry," Tracy said. It was a condition and also a threat. "At that time, it won't be me who comes looking for you." With that, Mark left. Tracy's face sank. Looking at Mark's back as he walked away, the affection in her heart made her ache. She had already given up once. She would not give up again. Lucia was in her office wondering if Dalen would again try to make a pass at her in the coming days. Or maybe he would forget about it? Just like last time, Tracy showed up brilliantly, but Lucia's mood now was completely different from last time. Last time, it was Tracy who showed her the photo, causing her to feel depressed for a long time and even wrongly accused Dalen. Yet she still dared to come to her door. It's a relaxing feeling coming to your office. Tracy looked around and sighed. "Don't you have anything productive to do, like ever?" Lucia said snappily. "I say, where are your manners?" Tracy asked with a smile. She continued. "Do you agree to what we discussed last time?" "I don't agree." "Why?" Tracy was surprised. I don't know why, but I feel like you shouldn't remarry Mark because you're not sincere enough. Let me tell you something, Lucia said. What? There are many female employees in the company who would love a chance with Mark, Lucia said. Tracy knew this, of course. That was why she was in such a hurry. Since I helped you reveal the truth about your husband last time, how about you return the favor by organizing a night out for your executive? Tracy asked. Lucia wanted to lash out at Tracy for drawing a wedge between her and Dalen with her biased proof of evidence, but now she had learned to know better and decided to keep shut. She couldn't have held Tracy responsible for her insecurities. What? Are you short on cash? This isn't a very intriguing offer. Lucia hated spending money for no reason. Don't worry about that. I'll pay for everything. Lucia and Cole looked at each other. Cole was definitely wanting to go, but it was only natural that he would want to interact with his idol. Lucia didn't want to do it in the beginning. However, after hearing that Tracy would pay, her stance loosened up a bit. But what would she tell Dalen? Dalen allowed her to work at the company during the day, but he definitely wouldn't allow her to stay out so late. She could imagine Dalen's expression and tone, as well as what he was going to say, especially after her little stunt with the strippers the other night. Just thinking about it made her frustrated. Don't worry, we're not going to a bar, Tracy said. Lucia was stunned. This Tracy has powerful intuition, but she couldn't let anyone know that she was a coward, so she pretended to be indifferent. Why would I care? I can go anywhere I want. We'll eat at my villa in the suburbs, Tracy said. After Tracy left, Lucia clenched her teeth. Lucia asked Cole, who was beside her, Did I just agree? Cole smiled. You didn't refuse. Are you afraid of what Dalen will say? This isn't going to the bar. It should be fine, Cole continued. Lucia nodded. I feel fine about it too. However, not going back to the mansion was a big problem. Lucia didn't understand. Dalen's position of power is too high. He doesn't even need to attend social gatherings. Couldn't he go out for a party or something every once in a while? Lucia suddenly thought of what Axel had told her before. Lucia sighed deeply in her heart once again. This must be why Robert wanted to rebel, right? Lucia felt around for her phone and sent a message. Lucia, I'm going out for a gathering with the company's higher-ups today. She waited for a while, but Dalen didn't reply. Lucia sent another message. Dalen? Even after waiting for a while, there was still no response. Why? Usually he would immediately reply. Could it be that Dalen was busy? This was quite new. Lucia played on her phone absent-mindedly, but then finally ran out of patience. Lucia called Dalen and he answered. Dalen, are you busy? She asked. I'm not busy. His low, clear voice responded. Then did you see the message I sent? I saw it. Lucia was stunned. Why didn't you reply when you saw it? You think it's necessary? A ghastly coldness spread over her.